started. Good morning and welcome everybody. My name is Joellen Laye. I'm the Acting Manager for Partnerships, Advocacy and Reporting with Caribbean Export, and I'm going to be your host for this morning. Now, since 2017, the United Nations has commemorated micro, small and medium-sized enterprises each year on the 27th of June. And this is to recognise their contribution to sustainable development and the global economy. In fact, UNCTAD reports that MSMEs count for more than 90% of all businesses around 70% of jobs worldwide. And in the Caribbean, it is no different. They're an extremely important sector for our economies. They are the backbone of our economies, and they are the engines of growth and remain critical to employment generation. Now, according to the Caribbean Development Bank, MSMEs represent between 70 and 80% of Caribbean businesses, and they contribute between 60 to 70% of GDP, with 50% of total employment, including marginalized groups such as youth, indigenous communities and women. And in fact, 40% of Caribbean businesses are owned by women, and small businesses or MSMEs in the Caribbean play a significant role in our food security, due to the fact that a large segment of Caribbean businesses are involved in food, either in the production phase, whether it's in the processing and also in the retailing of food. So as I say, I would like to welcome each and every one of you to this morning as we celebrate the contribution being made by MSMEs in the Caribbean. Now, I'm honored to have a fantastic panel of guests with me today. So I'm joined by Felipe de la Mota, who's the team leader for the Regional Cooperation and Trade Support at the Delegation of the European Union. I also have with us from Caribbean Export, Natasha Walcott, who's the Senior Advisor for Competitiveness and Export Promotion. And from the private sector, we have David Thomas from Farm&Function in Trinidad and Tobago, Bevon Charles from Akata Farms in Grenada, Daphnee Bougoin from Tisaksuk in Haiti, Nick Bynoe from Duppy in Barbados, and Dave Sahadath from Global Integrated Fintech Solution, also from Barbados. And we're going to hear from each and every one of our speakers today. And we hope to have a very engaging session that's informative, and they'll be able to share some of their experiences and help other MSMEs out there to see how we can transition from local to global. Now, as I mentioned at the outstart, the food and agro-processing sector is an extremely important sector for us in the Caribbean. So I'm actually going to start there. Many of you may be aware that the Caribbean community has committed to reducing its $5 billion US food import bill by 25% within the next 5 years. And in February this year, I believe it was announced that we're tracking at 57%. So that is absolutely fantastic. And it wouldn't be possible without the businesses in the Caribbean that are involved in food production. And so one business that has been contributing towards this by providing locally grown produce to the market is Farm&Function. So David, welcome. David Thomas from Farm&Function. It's fantastic to have you here with us. Tell us a little bit about Farm&Function, what you produce and what you're offering to the marketplace.
Hi everyone, my name is David Thomas from Farm&Function, and one of the things, Farm&Function is a line of frozen fruit, right? Using only Caribbean grown produce, and that's because we think the Caribbean is the best place in the world, and we believe we have the best things to share. So we've been trying to push that ethos of let's enjoy what we have here. Right? We don't need to, it's not necessary for us to bring so many things from outside, because we have such wonderful fruit and produce here. Right? And that has been what has been driving us in Farm&Function. That's our message, that's our purpose, and what we've been doing for the past couple of years.
Fantastic. So, I mean, you're not new to obviously Caribbean Export. You've been participated in a number of activities and events. Can you tell us about some of the support that you've been able to leverage from Caribbean Export?
Right. So we were able to access the DAGS, the Direct Assistance Grant Scheme, which was a major part of our development. It opened a lot of doors for us. It, especially that grant in particular, because through that we were able to, achieve compliance, which is a huge part of the entire scheme when you look into export. That has helped us with marketing. It has helped us. It just really took us from one stage to the next, having the access to those funds to be able to do the things that we needed to do. And we've also had training for the CARIFORUM trade agreements and those kind of things, understanding that. And it has been, very influential in what we've been able to do over the past recent years.
Fantastic. And and I know that obviously in addition to the grants, there's also some of the training and other things that have been able to that you've been able to leverage as well. So what sorts of things have you been able to do in terms of implementing different strategies, whether it's from marketing or being able to advance your supply chain and so forth?
Okay, well, with regards to marketing, anybody can tell you that marketing and advertising is always the biggest part of your budget. I had no idea that radio ads cost so much, especially if you have to do them in a foreign country, in another island or something like that. So that was the marketing we've been able to do was, create sort of a brand awareness through audio, visual, other metrics. We've been, because I say we are one of the smaller brands of frozen fruit and we're competing against the more popular brands that everybody would know, the Dole and whatever, we have to do a lot of marketing to really get the name out there. So through the DAGs, we've been able to actually make some headway with our marketing and do a lot more than we would have been able to do without it.
Right. And so obviously once you're being able to market and so forth, and I think it's important what you mentioned earlier about increasing your standards and certifications. What sort of things have you been able to actually achieve in those certifications, or how far along in the process are you?
I would say we maybe like about 60 to 70% to achieving full certification, because the benchmark really in food is your HACCP, right? And that's pretty intense. It's costly, and so we've been able to actually implement our GMPs, which will be our good manufacturing practices, which would be the base of what your HACCP is built on. And we've been able to hire a consultant to help us put those things, implement those changes. So I would say we're very close to achieving the full HACCP certification, which again would open a lot more doors on the export market for us.
No, that's fantastic. And so I'd like to ask, bring Felipe into this conversation, because, obviously compliance is important. Your labeling and being able to ship to your overseas markets. As many of you will be aware, that we're currently implementing the 11th EDF Regional Private Sector Development Programme, which is actually funded by the European Union. And a key aspect of that programme is being able to leverage the CARIFORUM EU Economic Partnership Agreement. So Felipe, can you share with our audience, some of the opportunities that you feel MSMEs may not be taken full advantage of as it relates to the EPA or that trade agreement?
No, absolutely, Joan. Thank you, and hello to everybody attending. On that point, I'd start by saying that indeed the EU is a huge market that actually pays a premium for standards in that sense. And indeed, the EPA, so the Economic Partnership Agreement, what it allows is to have duty-free and quota-free, and so basically liberalized from duty imports when coming into the EU market for any Caribbean export of goods. And this, of course, is excellent. The issue is that, of course, there are regulatory requirements to exporting. And in that sense, investing in the standards, investing in understanding what the different markets within the EU, so the single market, but also at the country level, what the requirements are for sanitary, phytosanitary, or for regulatory requirements and certifications are, is an investment in time and effort, but it's an investment that we believe pays off. And in this sense, we have put quite a number of tools at the disposal of companies, but also of governments to adapt both regulations at the country level and to help countries and SMEs navigate these requirements, both through, for example, the Access to Markets website of the EU, Caribbean Export providing these services, through also business support organizations. So we see a lot of, indeed, SMEs trying to navigate that setting of standards, but at the same time, it would be accessing the largest single market that we have in the world right now that actually pays a premium for these type of products. So I would say, I mean, to simplify it very much, for the EU market, it's not necessarily a question of price, which obviously plays a role, but it's really a question of standards, and achieving these standards certainly unlocks quite a lot of trade.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic, thank you ever so much. So David, final question for you then. Where have you been able to export thus far? Where? You're still muted.
Right, sorry, so far we are in Dominica, and we're also in Barbados as well. We're currently exploring St. Lucia and Curacao.
Fantastic. So it's a, you know, you're making your way through the regional market as such, and I appreciate that distribution and how you're actually able to do that becomes, you know, a huge factor in that, and working with the right organizations and distributors. Can you share a little bit about your experience as it relates to distributing product across the region?
Okay, well, I mean, especially when you're doing a frozen product, distribution and logistics are extremely important, right? Because you can never have a break in your cold chain cycle, right? Your product must remain at a certain temperature throughout the entire, from factory to shelf to, you know, household. And one of the things that we've actually been able to do was partner with one of the larger Caribbean distributors, and we've actually been able to, I guess, maybe piggyback on their network. So we will actually look for markets that they go to, right? Because we are not at the stage where we send in like a full containers yet, right? So we've actually been able to get them, okay, if it is you're going to this island, I have a few pallets of stuff I want to send. I'll pay you for space on your container, and you know, and we'll get there. And but we actually been able to get into their distributors as well, so it's almost seamless, you know, when we get that. So I mean, we've been a smaller company. You have to be very agile and innovative in how you get things done, because you might not always have the budget to do things, you know, traditionally. So you have to find ways. So that's what we've been able to do. Work with other larger distributors, see where they're going, and try our best to get into that market, into the distributor as well. And then, so it makes it easier for us, especially when you're dealing with frozen. That's very tricky. You can't just load a container and, you know, when it gets there, it gets there. And you know, it's very, very tricky.
No, I completely appreciate that. I think, you know, taking on frozen goods in probably one of the hottest parts of the world is a challenge that you've managed to solve as such. So that's fantastic, and well done to you. I must apologize. I did forget to say that should you have any questions for our panelists, please do place them into the chat or into the Q&A section. You can also state if it is a specific person that your question is for, and then we can ask that. So one of our guests is actually asking Umida from Nalidos, I believe, from Belize. Hi, Umida. Which distributor do you use?
Right now we go with Hadco. Hadco is our distributor, and they distribute creamery ice cream. Right, which is sold in a lot of the Caribbean islands, and again, it's frozen. So ice cream was like, okay, yeah, we need to get on that. So yeah, so that's who we use right now, and I say we look at where they go, and we try to get into that market.
Fantastic. That's Hadco, HADCO. So anybody that's looking for a distributor out there, there's a opportunity there for you to kind of follow up with on that one. So as you would have mentioned, you've done grants, there's been some training, but I'd like to obviously bring in Natasha Walcott from Caribbean Export to tell us a little bit more about the various programs and initiatives that Caribbean Export has been able to offer to businesses over the last few years as such.
Thank you, Joe, and good morning, everybody. If I could start off maybe where David left off. And I noticed there was a bit of caution when he said piggyback off of those distributors. To be honest, there's no shame in that game, right? And we have very real experience of small companies leveraging bigger companies, and it's really where it starts, is those partnerships. Because as you said, as the doors open, you're able to get your products onto supermarket shelves. So, I mean, when I walked through Massey some months ago and I saw your brand, it was like, wow, this is a company that we have assisted, and it really brings immense pride when we as the implementers see your products. So, when you walk and you see Nick Bynoe's Old Duppy and other company products, and you're like, yeah, this is a firm that I've assisted. So I just really want to encourage companies, the audience, that it really is about, whether it's one pallet or a few boxes, there are very many large producers and exporters who are very willing and able to support that sort of thrust into getting into new markets. But back to the question, Joellen, there are several initiatives that Caribbean Export implements, and I would speak about it from two angles, really. It's export development, which is to assist exporters or companies rather who are looking to export, and those who are not yet export ready, so they can immerse themselves in several training opportunities, capacity building opportunities, from goods like ProNet to services, Go Global, business of music. So we put on several workshops throughout the year, often in times with trade promotion agencies across the region. So it tends to be a project that is a national project. And I remember last year, we were in, it wasn't last year, actually, it was earlier this year. We were in Grenada, and we had a workshop looking at EPA, the EU partnership agreement, but also market intelligence and letting firms understand or have a real sense of what it is like to export into a country and all the different steps that one has to take and has to consider. The other areas of support, obviously Farm&Function would have benefited from a grant. And since 2017, under this call, we have distributed over 7 million euros in grant assistance to firms across CARIFORUM. So this is a flagship area of lending. Access to finance, we know, is a perennial issue for SMEs. And we are very happy with the level of support, of course, through the EU that we've been able to provide. Currently, we are working on digital business and e-commerce. COVID especially demonstrated that if you were not online, you basically did not exist, whether it was consuming entertainment or your groceries and so forth. There is a real thrust from the side of Caribbean Export to support companies to go online, and if you're already online, to leverage. We know one of the issues is the payment function and accepting payments and doing those payments online. So there's currently VEAP, Virtual E-commerce Accelerator, that we're putting on right now. We're close to the end of the first cohort, but I would invite companies that are looking to digitize to, of course, subscribe to our newsletter. And of course, there's export promotion. And it is really going to market, taking companies to market to have an understanding of the market requirements. And on this call, we have Dave, who we recently just came 2 weeks ago from Africa, where it was our first foray into that market. Africa is rising. We need to look at ways to diversify our markets, and we took about 6 companies from across the Caribbean to have a first understanding of what that looks like. We've taken companies to Paris at Cial for a food show over there. In 2019, we went to Germany as well as part of our business forum exercise. So there's a myriad of support services that Caribbean Export has done over the years and will continue to do. Just it ranges the whole gamut, but certainly we're happy to continue to provide that assistance.
Fantastic. Thank you ever so much, Natasha. Yeah, I was privileged enough to actually join you on a couple of those missions, particularly last year to Sial for the Sial Paris, and also to Specialty Fine and Food Fair. Now, that was an event that I believe Nick Bynoe was also participated in, and Nick was part of the Launch to Market program. Can you tell us a little bit about that Launch to Market program, Natasha?
Sure. So that program, coming out of COVID especially, we recognized that there was an increased consumer demand for Caribbean products, especially those products that are green, those products that we tend to associate with, old wives' tale and ginger and turmeric, and your grandmother says this is good for this and that. But certainly after COVID, we recognized that consumers had a high demand for those sustainable products, natural products, gluten-free flours, or what you call free from, so free from additives, free from preservatives. And so especially during the lockdown and people, wanting to boost their immune system, we recognized the UK was a market, of course, with the diaspora as well. So we curated a program where Nick and 4 other companies, after a rigorous selection process, they had to basically apply and basically give the rationale for why they would be an ideal candidate for this program. So it was the first of its kind that we'd done. We selected 5 companies, put them through a 10-month training and exercise with mentors and one-on-one support with a company from the UK. So it was a food and beverage company that knows the insights, trends, and would have been able to support the firms in terms of their growth and go-to-market strategy. So after those 10 months, those 5 companies plus another 5 who had already been exporting to the UK, we supported them to the Specialty Fine Food Fair in the UK. And by support, it means that we had an absolutely Caribbean booth. And visually, I think not because it's our booth, but it was one of the most visually appealing booths. So from across the room, you could see that logo and that brand. And, there's something very, special about the Caribbean. So when you're in a country or a market like in Europe or in the UK, everybody wants to understand and know what does the Caribbean have to offer. So we had 10 companies, including Old Duppy, showcase their products. It ranged from sauces, rum, condiments, gluten-free flours, or teas. And those companies essentially showcased to buyers and distributors and so forth. We also had the opportunity to go to one of the largest importers in the UK, Juanis Foods, and they essentially import products from across the Caribbean. And what is important to note about that is maybe a product might be good enough for Sainsbury's or a Marks and Spencer, but those retailers don't care to import directly. So they would go to a Juanis to source their products. So that is why it's important to build those relationships with those importers and distributors, because Marks and Spencer or Sainsbury's or Tesco would not directly import from Nick or David, but they would go to a distributor that goes through that quote unquote hassle of getting the products in the UK. And so the companies were able to, spend some time with those sort of distributors, understand the margins. So if you're thinking of selling your products in the UK, what are the different types of margins you need to be aware of? You want your profit, yes, but working backwards, a Tesco would want its margin, a Wannis will want their margin, you have your insurance, your freight, your input costs, and all of these things. So all of these things we were able to share and give those companies very important insights into what it is like to export to a market. So this essentially was the culmination of this 10-week program, and Nick, I'm sure, will tell you that since that showcase, he's been able to export to the UK, and that was through direct support of Caribbean Export.
Thank you, Natasha. So I think it would be right for us to speak to Nick about his experience with the Launch to Market program. Nick, tell us about how you were able to leverage the program. And one of the things that I would just like to pick up on is about having the right distributor, a distributor that kind of will work with you as well and finding the right partner. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you've been able to get into the UK market since that program?
No, for sure. Morning, everyone. Like Natasha was saying, the distributor is, in my experience, the most important person, company. And you really have to be realistic with who you're looking for and where you want to go. So for our brand, we don't fit a Tesco's. We didn't fit into Wannis's model of importing. And you have to be realistic with your company and what you can handle. So you have to find a distributor that matches your ambitions for the next however many years you choose, and then you can always move forward from there. So that was one of the things that the accelerator program that we did in 2021, 22 helped us realize, is when you're looking at export, you just want to make as much as you can, put out there as much as you can. You think everybody wants your product. You really have to then come back down and as Natasha said, work back from the retail price that will work in the market that you're looking to enter. And you really have to then be realistic on your expectations. And so the accelerator program was really good, and also in the sense that when you're a small company, you get almost blindsided by what you're doing. You have blinkers on, and this is how you do it, and this is what has worked. And the program from Caribbean Export really made us open our eyes and look outside the box, even if you thought you were ready, to get an expert's opinion from the market you're looking to enter on what you thought would have worked, but realistically, these are the trends, these are what the expectations are from a brand such as yours. You don't have to change everything you do, but you do have to adjust. So from that experience, from the experience of going to the specialty fine foods, the reception was great, but we did have to adjust a few things with our look, adjust a few things with our heat levels, because some of our sauces were a little too hot for the market, and you can't be too stubborn with what you do. So you do have to play with some stuff, and the distributor will help you with that. We found distributor, and exactly what Natasha was saying. We had great interest for some of the bigger companies, but they weren't looking to import. So the question we got from everybody over 3 days was, who's your importer, who's your distributor? And so that's really the first point of entry. Yes, you can look at supplying these big stores, but they're not interested in doing the legwork. So that is the key, is finding that distributor that matches your brand, matches your feel. And I just have to say, once you find that person, that's not end game. That's when the work really starts, because you're just another product for them as well. So then your work into that market really starts.
Okay, great. There was a question actually that just came in, which I think is quite important, because obviously you went through that market research and understanding the market that you're going into before you started to enter it. Were there any changes that needed to be made to your products before you tried to access the UK, for example, or any of the other markets? Did you have to make any changes to suit the market taste, so to speak?
Yeah, well, for us, for Old Duppy, we make smoked pepper sauces. So things we had to change were down to labeling requirements. So you do then have to go through all of that and make sure you're compliant with the UK market, any market you're going into. And we made the decision from having done tastings over 3 days with the market we're looking to enter, that we realized that some of our more popular sauces in our local market were a bit too spicy for the market we're looking to enter. So we did make the decision to say, okay, well, you know, we can't be too hard and fast, and we lowered the spice because of the feedback we were getting. So we did make a change based on what we thought would work, and it has thankfully worked. And then you also have to make changes based on regulations and little things too. So we use PVC heat seals for our bottles, but some of the more accomplished sauce makers out there, they will use organic PVC, not PVC, organic seals, which we just don't have access to in Barbados. We would have to really import and increase our price. There are tips and little things that other people in the markets do that you can take inspiration from.
Fantastic. No, that's good. That's good to understand. And I think obviously when it comes to exporting, and Natasha alluded to it earlier, you know, since COVID and so forth, the importance of technology. Technology has been absolutely critical, you know, from an e-commerce point of view, being able to connect with customers and so forth, and also from the payment side of things. And so I actually want to bring in Dave Sahadath to the conversation from Global Integrated Fintech Solutions. Dave, as mentioned, is in the technology space, and he recently was on the trade mission to Africa most recently. So Dave, can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing?
Yes, sure. So we were happy to have been part of that delegation to West Africa, Ghana. And there we actually were, because of the way the whole expo was structured by CETA, it actually exposed us to several businesses and the sectors that we were primarily interested in. Of course, we are a fintech company focused mostly on B2B solutions. And so we found that the way that everything was organized and how it was set up, and especially being able to match businesses with businesses that align to yours, it was extremely helpful. And it certainly helped us, you know, to propel what we consider to be our market strategy for the region.
Fantastic, thank you. So, I mean, we've a lot of businesses here that, you know, obviously some of them are started, some of them are a little bit more established, but, you know, payment solutions has always been a bit of a challenge or an issue. From your experience in the technology space and providing these solutions to small businesses, what have been the challenges that you've come across as it relates to implementing e-commerce and digital infrastructures, and what should small businesses be doing in order to maximize the online opportunity as such, and how can they leverage these infrastructures in order to support their growth?
Sure. Well, one of the challenges that we've found in technology, and I think that this is something you find globally, is the fact that because technology is evolving so rapidly, that it often outpaces legislation. So, you know, that there are lots of moves globally, whether it's in the Caribbean or in Africa, to legislate things within the fintech space. So part of the challenge is, yes, having to, you know, be able to work within that framework that has been established by regulators, et cetera. And as I said, again, the issue with that is that technology is so quickly evolving that it tends to outpace that. However, you know, having said that, in terms of for smaller players, similarly to what is happening, as I've just heard, from David and others in the agricultural space, is that the key to navigating such is to finding partners that you are actually able to work in collaboration with. For us, the entry into market, we believe that it would not be useful to try to reinvent the wheel, if you would, because of course, with every market that you try to enter into, whether it's in the Caribbean or Africa, the mistake that some people make is saying that one size fits all, not understanding that there are cultural nuances. So, for example, we know that what might necessarily work in Trinidad or in Barbados might not necessarily work in Jamaica. Similarly, in Africa, we can't assume that what might work in Nigeria might necessarily work in Ghana. So the whole idea, I believe, in terms of being able to cut entry time into the market is finding those reliable partners / resellers, people that you can that already have a reputation, in many instances that they have some semblance of market share, one that you're comfortable with. And I believe that this is, the quickest way to overcome some of the hurdles, because a local partner would be, for example, aware of any legal or legislative challenges. They would be aware of trends within that market, and also be able to see quickly where there may be gaps and see how we are able to fill those gaps. So definitely similar to the agro businesses, it is about finding, well, we won't, it's not a distributor, but rather in this instance, it would actually be finding the right partners, if you would, to enter into the market with. And advice for small entrepreneurs, that actually one, because the payment space is one, as I said, that's being looked at and being heavily regulated. And I believe that, the whole process is ensuring that their systems can stand up to scrutiny. Of course, compliance and security is a big thing right about now. So it is understanding that it's not just developing your system, but ensuring that those systems are so compliant that even if you partnered with a financial institution such as a bank, that you are actually able to answer all of the security questions, and that the systems are able to stand up to scrutiny. But we do know that this is pivotal, and this is something very, very important. If we are going to speak about cross-border trade, then this sector is something that has to be paid very, very close attention to.
Fantastic. Thank you ever so much, Dave. I actually want to bring Daphnee Bougoin into the conversation here, because Daphnee from Tisaksuk in Haiti has been able to leverage the support from Caribbean Export to go through a process of digitalization of her business. She's exporting. She is also using different distribution models as such. And so I'd like to hand over to Daphnee to tell us a little bit more about your products, what you're doing, and how you've been able to go about digitalization of your business.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daphnee Bougoin of Tisaksuk. Tisaksuk promotes and sells products that are made in Haiti. So whether it be handicrafts, food items, if it's made in Haiti, we're promoting it and selling it. Through Caribbean Export, we have been able to get the assistance of digitalizing our system, training our staff with accounting, admin in general, and doing a better job at presenting our website differently so that it's more appealing to our clients. So through our websites, this is where most of our business comes from. We are a direct client model. Customers go on our website, order, and we ship out to them. So that's what's worked for us. Most of our business comes from North America. And like I said, 80% of our sales come from outside of Haiti through the site.
No, that's great, fantastic. And so how do you go about getting your product to your customers quickly?
Well, quickly, we don't get them quickly. That doesn't happen. We're very transparent online. It is said that because our products are coming from Haiti, that your order will take 2 to 3 weeks to get to you. And that has not been an issue since we've been in business. We are very strict on ourselves to better that. That's why right now we're in the process of opening up a distribution center in Florida so that we're closer to our customers. So I think someone mentioned it earlier, knowing your target market and understanding who your main clientele is key in deciding for your business. We've noticed again that most of our clients are not in Haiti. Most of them are out of Haiti, which is a great thing. And we know that what they complain about. They complain about the cost of shipping. They complain about that it takes, longer than usual. People are used to the Amazon format, which as a small business, we can't accommodate. But we're grateful enough where we could and can open up a distribution center in Florida. So we're moving forward with that plan so that we can have a better turnaround in delivery and better cost of shipping for our clients.
Fantastic, that's great. Now, very impressively, Tisaksuk, I was viewing the website, it looks fantastic. You have a huge social media following on Instagram, over 33,000 followers as such. That's just on one platform. I mean, how have you, as a small business, been able to achieve that kind of scale? Because we heard from David Thomas earlier, I know that they're also online and also do Farm&Function also online and do social, have social platforms as well. And we've heard that it's costly. It's costly to do advertising, even on social. If you're going to be spending money on ads, on Google ads and social ads and so forth to promote your business. But how have you been able to get so many followers in how many years? Would you say you've been 10 years, right?
Well, we're turning 10 in August, so we've been at this for 10 years, and you have to show up. You have to show up online consistently and authentically. So our clients relate to us. We show them our products online. We show them how we use them. I wear the clothes. I post. I do TikToks with my kids. My husband's our director of operations. He's on there. I'm filming him, fulfilling orders. People want to see you. They want to see the product that you're selling. And I tell people all the time, don't sleep on social media. It's free if you're doing the work. You don't have to spend a lot of money doing a lot of other advertising when you have social media. People are really big on TikTok nowadays. I know you don't want to dance, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do to get your products. If you're in the food industry, show your clients how you're using the food that you want to sell them. Be present, and most importantly, like I said, be authentic. People want to hear the story behind your brand. They want to see the people making the stuff that you're selling. They want to feel and relate to the products that you're offering them. And I think that's been the key for us. When they don't see us, they ask for us. Where are you? When I post my husband, yes, he's here, on the screen. They want to see some of that.
But what do you do if you're shy in front of the camera? You don't want to be seen. I don't want to be the face of my brand, so to speak, or, and it's.
Someone has to be the face of that brand, though. I mean, if you don't want to do it, then you have to find somebody who can. People want to relate. People want to hear, like we sell clothing. I've had to do tutorials on how to wrap, just a top wrap, and people want to see that. They want to see you doing lives, answer frequently asked questions. Nowadays, it's nice to pay and have an ad in a newspaper, but people are not doing that as much as they're on TikTok and IG and Twitter. There are many things that you can do. You can, if you sell, I don't know, juices, talk about the ingredients in your juice and how it's better to anything, just something that your audience can relate to and make it feel more authentic. than just pitching them all the time to buy your products.
Right. And I know, obviously, you know, the fact that you've been able to be so successful in a market that, you know, historically is a challenging marketplace to operate in and operate from. And I think it is fantastic that you've been able to connect with the various artisans that are there and been able to get the products out of the country, and utilizing the tools and the networks out there to be able to support those makers and those people. You know, and it's funny, they talk about the 3 C's: conflict, COVID, and climate. You know, these are the things that we are, as businesses, having to face across all sectors. Felipe, if I could ask you, you know, from your perspective, from the EU's perspective, given the kind of geopolitical climate at the moment, where we are faced with all of these challenges that are, every few minutes there seems to be something new that is, you know, that people are having to overcome in their businesses. And it's great that we have got these businesses here that have survived the challenges that we've been faced with over the last couple of years. How is the EU helping to mitigate some of those challenges? And what advice can you give to our businesses that are joining us today?
Sure, thank you. I mean, first, I'm certainly not in the position to give advice to the entrepreneurs and business owners who know way more about running their business than I ever will, of course. But I think I can certainly share some views from our vantage point here in terms of how different markets, how we're seeing companies adapt to these realities that you mentioned, and how we're supporting them in this. I mean, many of this has been, of course, mentioned already by Daphnee, Dave, Nick, but I think first and foremost, we're seeing a lot of issues with the value chain. So again, diversification of your value chains to the extent that you can. I mean, we're seeing the shift from offshoring to friendshoring. We're seeing these considerations in terms of supply chains that go beyond price as the only factor when considering to, you know, ensuring your business continuity and shielding yourself from supply chain disruptions. This is something certain to keep in mind. Technology is an absolute must. I mean, embracing technological change. Dave talked about digital finance. This is absolutely fundamental. We you know, technology is key to help MSMEs adapt to the new normal, but also to stay competitive in this region, particularly where the edge that you might not be able to get from reducing other input costs into the productive process that you have. You need to look at how to streamline operations, how to enhance your customer engagement, as Daphnee was saying, and even to improve your own decision making. So digital is an absolute must in terms of adapting to these newer technologies, savvier ways. Daphnee was mentioning you have to do what you have to do. Even if you're not comfortable on TikTok, you might need to look at that closer. Building partnerships, we see that as an absolute must as well. And this is something that we're seeing across the board. It takes many forms, it takes many shapes. Some companies that we're seeing actually pool back office resources. But this also looks at seeing each other not as competitors, but also as platforms. I mean, you need scale to export to big markets like the EU. You were saying before, you can't just access importers directly. You need distributors, but you need to meet them. You need to invest in outreach. You need to invest in your product. You have support networks for this in many cases. You need to probably explore which ones there are. Caribbean Export has been instrumental in many of these, of course, with our support as well. But you do have business associations, industry associations, government agencies. At the end of the day, market intelligence, research, all that is something that is shareable. And these are typically the type of support that you can get from them. So you don't have to invest your own time and money. But all this requires talking, requires sharing knowledge, understanding what there is out there. Particularly if you're focused on exporting. You need to also keep abreast of regulations and changes, and this is something that these institutions can give, or your partners, these business networks. Maybe I want to highlight as well the sustainability angle here. It's important. Let's not greenwash. That's a mistake. But we can't avoid the reality is that circular economy is here to stay, and this is good for everybody. But of course, companies need to adapt. Those that are adapting early can see themselves probably more attractive in more sophisticated markets. And again, this is certainly something that we don't see diminishing. It might require more investment, but at the same time, it opens opportunities. This is a green transition as a service, not just as a tool to adapt. It's an adaptation mechanism, right? So again, I think also maybe just to point out that we can also, it's not just home-based research, at least in terms of exporting to the EU, you can access directly as well the business chambers in the EU, the different investment agencies. They're open to provide knowledge and insights and contacts to these distributors. A lot of groundwork needs to be done, and as I said before, it's better if it's pooled. But of course, let's not forget that this is a good it's time investment, it's time consuming, but it's certainly worth the investment. And we do see a space in this for companies that offer that extra edge, that niche product, maybe that they have a specific production know-how, and joint ventures, partnering up with EU firms that can help navigate that can help maybe bring that extra. There's companies that are always on the lookout for local partners, particularly in the Caribbean, who have a specific product that can be then marketed there. And what we're trying to put together now through the different services that we're supporting in the region is precisely this. It includes also this matchmaking opportunities between EU companies and Caribbean companies, also to bridge that gap, to try to again bring companies closer. Like you said, you need a certain scale. But if we can bring those companies closer to these potential distributors or even companies that can navigate that better, that's also an important thing. I'll leave it there for now.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. I'd actually like to bring in Bevon Charles into the conversation now, because Bevon's been waiting very patiently.
Yes.
But you've been nodding along. I can see that you're ready to chime in. But so Bevon Charles from Akata Farms in Grenada. Now, tell us about your innovative approach to agriculture, and how you're actually going about supporting the adoption of technology in farming across the region. As we mentioned earlier at the outset, food security is a massive issue for us in the region. Farming is critical for that. We have 30 odd million people in the region. We've got the tourists coming in. It is a huge opportunity, the food sector. As we know, the majority of our small businesses are in the food and agro-processing sector as a whole. Tell us about what you're doing as it relates in the agricultural space.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. So Akata Farms is basically a tool to develop community and national development. How can agriculture transform lives? That's basically our mission. So we have stepped away from the way of traditional farming and to leverage technology, not just to increase our productivity, to increase the quality of our products, but also to just get youths and the government. As Dave mentioned, technology is continually changing, but policy is not catching up to that. So we have to be, position ourselves at the table with the government to try to build out ag-tech strategies that can and will transform agriculture into the Caribbean region. So what we have done, we have taken a traditional farm method where we do everything from crop production to poultry to making our own organic feed. And we have done it in different steps in terms of we have built the foundation, getting certification, getting our all our necessary regulatory and compliance requirements down so that we are able to better position ourselves when we're able to export. We're not exporting at the moment, but what we are doing, we are leveraging networks and to help other agro-processors, not just in Grenada, but across the Caribbean region, who have markets, not markets, but who have products. And we're now able to connect them with markets. Market research is imperative. So we've been working with organizations who are already to have targeted markets and be able to understand what are those requirements, what is the demand, what is the quality expected, what is the margins that we're able to create value back in the Caribbean region. And then we're able to get the necessary agro-processors and the necessary farmers to be able to meet that requirements. One of the things we are working right now, not just Akata farms, but in Grenada and across the Caribbean region, is getting farmers to be to get HIPAA certified. I know Dave mentioned that the importance of having those certification, but if the farms are able to have those certifications in place, it gets, I think, it would be a more efficient way to have better quality products meeting the agro-processors, streamlining, reducing the value chain in a sense. So we're doing that. Building networks of farmers to meet the capacity for export, because in that one of the challenges that we're going to have, there are lots of potential market opportunities, but farms are not able to, produce to meet them, not able to produce the standard quality products that agro-processors such as David needs to get this high quality foods, right? But that takes a step, and it comes back down to having the government system being able to invest into the small farmers, to ensuring that they have the best quality technology, the best human resource possible. Training needs to be improved to meet the necessary trends that is, dominating the globe right now in terms of agriculture and tech. And those are the gaps that we are trying to solve. And as you know, we have been existing for 6 years, and there's a lot that we're doing. I'm in a lot of spaces, but I have positioned myself strategically in terms of getting involved where the policies needs to be influenced. I was fortunate enough to attend the Caribbean Export Investments in Trinidad, because we're able to pitch our AgTech strategy. It's using technology to leverage capacity for farms. Farms do not have, as I mentioned before, do not have the capacity to produce. So we are going to create the company to help them. We're going to give them the necessary financing, help them have the best staff to be able to meet those working demands, have the necessary technology to produce. We're talking about AI and lots of machine learning and robotics and all of that stuff, smart farms. But the problem is getting the government to bite into that strategy. So when we went to Trinidad, we were able to meet investors, and there was one of the key concerns were, is your government ready? And right now we have to be dealing with that right now. But yeah.
So I didn't catch you. Hello?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So I was saying that the government, we're trying to get them to shift towards AgTech, and that strategy needs to be implemented across the region, so that when we roll out our solutions, there's a smooth streamline. Farmers are now able to produce up to standards. David will have his abundance in food supplies coming from organic certified farms, and we're able to explore larger markets into the US and Europe and so forth.
Fantastic. Thank you ever so much, Bevon. I mean, yeah, it's a topic that we are continually talking about, how we can innovate within the agricultural space, how we can really unlock the natural resources that we have in the region, to support the food security situation, and also for our businesses to be able to leverage the natural resources that we have in the region for export as well. And ultimately, I think, if we're able to do that, what was it they used to say? Is it he who feeds the world rules the world, right? And I know we're a very small market within the Caribbean, but I think we pack a lot of weight internationally and globally. And thank you ever so much for the plug. So we have and I'm going to follow up on the Caribbean Investment Forum, which was the event that you joined last year. It's our flagship event that we're going to be hosting from the 23rd to the 25th of October this year. It will be in the Bahamas. So please do visit CaribbeanInvestmentForum.com for more information on that event. Now, I know it's 11 o'clock already, but there has been a number of questions that have come through the Q&A that have been answered as we've been discussing. But to round it up, I'm going to ask each of you, starting with David Thomas, because I think people have been hearing a lot of different experiences from each one of you. But from your perspectives, what for each of you, you can each answer this differently, if you can. What advice or guidance can you offer to entrepreneurs who are ready for export with their products and their businesses, and what would you say are any of the best practices or methods that you think that they should be implementing in order to attract and onboard new buyers or consumers in the regional or international markets? So I'll start with you, David.
Okay, well, I would say, just to borrow from Daphnee, one is when you're presenting your product, be as authentic as you can, because we are selling what we are, right? We're selling the Caribbean, we're selling, our authenticity, our value, and our value doesn't come from outside, it comes from within. So you just present your product as authentic as you can. That is on that side. I'd also like to speak to finding the right distributor. That's very important. Sometimes you might have an experience, you might be happy to get a distributor on another island, but it might not be the best fit for you. So you always have to be looking at how is this distributor working for me and with me, and how is he helping to promote my product. And you don't want to, distributors don't want to do too much work. So you want to be prepared, have as much compliance as possible, have as much brand awareness as possible. So they want to, when they bring your product, it's an easy sell for them. So you need to do a lot of the work and be prepared for when you get into another market. That's what I would advise, is be as prepared and as authentic and real as you can.
Fantastic, thank you very much. And over to you, Nick. Nick Bynoe, what advice or insights would you be able to share?
Very much on the same lines as David. Just find the right distributor for your company, your brand, your look, and don't worry about competition, because you can't be focusing on what everybody else is doing. So you just have to have, if you have confidence in your product, just promote that confidence. It really be authentic, and contact Caribbean Export, because it helps. Definitely.
Thanks so much. And Daphnee.
I would say quality. Make sure that as much as you're hyping up your products online and everywhere else, that the quality is there to back it up. I know we deal with a lot of that in Haiti. Once you hear Haitian made, for a very long time, people question the quality of it. So that has been our focus. We want to make sure that when you get our product, that it's good, and that there's a service behind it. If there's something should happen, that you feel confident that it'll be resolved. So before you are pushing your product to the world and want to export it, make sure that that it's a good product, that it's sellable, and that people will be pleased with what you're selling.
Fantastic, thank you. And Dave.
Yeah, so thanks, and I can certainly echo the sentiments of my colleagues here. One of the things that I would say that we need to pay close attention to is to make sure that your product or your solution meets all of the standards. Make sure that it is compliant to the region within which you would like to expand into. Also, you must determine what it is that differentiates you from other products in the market. I think it is important, if you're going to quote unquote try to build a better mousetrap, to certainly explain why it is better. Don't just say it is better, but also seek to solve a problem. seek to solve a problem that exists, especially within the technology space. And I think that you would find then that that becomes a path of least resistance. And as the others have said, even in the agri space, choose your partners wisely. As they've said, choose your distributors wisely. It is important to choose partners wisely. And above all, we said research, strategize, and execute. I think those are the three things that I would leave, for anyone interested in expanding. Do your markets research, certainly come up with a strategy, and then be uber focused on execution.
Fantastic. Thank you ever so much, Dave. And Bevon, from yourself.
What I would leave is to develop contingency plans to mitigate the risk and diversity of the customer base and supply chain. That is very important. Also foster a culture of innovation and adaptability within their organization so that they can respond quickly to the change in market dynamics. Another thing is to build strong networks and partnerships. It not only will help you access new markets to find distributors, but to help you stay in the know. And I think that is essential when you're starting off as a small businesses. If you're not yet in business or you're not yet ready to export, a lot of training, as I said, contact Caribbean Export, leverage the services, but be in the know. That's always how you can able to understand what is happening around you, and you can take advantage of those opportunities.
Fantastic, thank you. And a final comment from Natasha.
What can I say, Joe? I think every one of those, they've been really valid. Perhaps as a consumer myself, I will just like to say a lot of the times when I'm looking for something, when I'm shopping, I go online, right? In the age of ease, convenience, and everything, I think, like Daphnee said, it's important to show up. So whether it's a good or a service, especially in the age that we're in, I think it's important to have an online presence, but not only to be online, but to have relevant content, updated content. Because if I'm looking for something, I don't want to see something from a year ago. Have your prices, because I find it frustrating sometimes if you're advertising something and I have to message you for your price. So it's these little things, like, as you have to put yourself think of yourself as a consumer as well. And what are you selling? What is your unique selling point? What is your proposition? The accessibility, your customer service, all of these things, around the digital space, because for me, customer service is very important, but also doing your market research. What is your price point? Why should I buy your product? In several of the trainings we've done, people tend to have a sort of they fear competition, so to speak, but I think your competitor can teach you a lot about your product. So don't be afraid to walk the supermarket shelves and pick up a bottle of a hot sauce and look at what they're doing, look at their label, look at their ingredients, look at their socials, what are they doing differently? Why is a product, why is your competitor making headway? I think there's a lot that can be learned. So I think businesses need to do a lot of research the market, research the product, make sure your price point is right. Your socials, a lot of the time when we speak to buyers said it's very frustrating if they go to a website and there's a security certificate. They're not going to bother and say, click yes, because you want it to be, whatever that question is, where it's safe to proceed, they're not going to bother with that. And I think in this day and age, having an online presence is not as expensive. It's relatively inexpensive for you to be present, and be relevant. So I think everything that's been said is relevant, but I would just stop here and, of course, invite the audience to subscribe to our mailing list. I'm sure you would have left with that, Joe, but I see a lot of questions in terms of the type of services and support that we can provide. So by all means, subscribe to our mailing list and you will get to know and know all the various services that we provide.
Fantastic, thank you. And a final comment from Felipe.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, I'd say, reach out don't go it alone. Time is money. There are institutions out there. We've put a lot of resources from the EU into regional institutions here, regional programs, to make sure that the information is there. You can save a lot of time, a lot of effort by asking questions. I think you've all talked about it before. The partnerships, just really reach out, make sure you're doing your homework, build your pitch, but there's a lot of information, resources out there. The chances are quite a number of companies have tread this ground before. They've learned lessons. Take advantage of that information, of that work, and that would eventually save you money and make yourself a better product. So please do.
Fantastic. Thank you ever so much, Felipe. And there have been, as I say, there's been a number of comments in the question and answers, and as Natasha said, you can always find more information on Caribbean Export at our website, carib-export.com. If you're not already subscribed to the mailing list, please do subscribe to the mailing list. This is where you will get all of the information about the different programs, how to participate in them, and how you can leverage some of the support that is being offered through the range of different programs that we have. I know that some people are asking for a list of distributors that are out there. If you can, just drop us an email to info@carib-export.com. We will look to see how we can assist you with any further information. This session has been recorded, so it will be available to anybody that has already pre-registered, and we can make it available on our YouTube channel. So if there are some nuggets of information that you want to go back to find and listen to, then you'll be able to do that. Yes, so thank you ever so much for all of your time, for all of my guests and speakers and panels. I think it was a very informative session. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I wish you all a pleasant rest of MSME Day 2023. Fantastic. Have a lovely day.